This is the Philosominute, giving you what matters in about 5 minutes, starting now.
So the news is going on about Elon Musk, who is the world's first trillionaire. So, as I like to ask about just about everything else, why is this news? Now, I was going to say it's because people have issues with inequality because they see it as fairness, but the answer really is far less directly connected. This story is a very personally feeling misdirection from the other events happening. Right now, multiple countries are trying to pass laws to require ID for accessing social media by claiming that it's necessary to protect children. It also, in the process, is going to remove anonymity online. And the UK is demonstrating that stating the wrong thoughts online is lawfully punishable by a prison sentence. Multiple people have gone to prison because they said a social media post that was deemed hate speech. Fear has always been a successful method to get citizens to give up their natural rights, but it only happens when people aren't paying attention. The United States is actually looking to pass similar laws in this department, so it's not simply happening in Europe. Now, civil unrest is happening in the UK and Brussels as well, but the news is intentionally vague about why. In the UK, it's connected to an image of a Sudanese immigrant who was on top of and stabbing a white victim while screaming in Arabic. This came after the public attention of a separate situation where a Sikh stabbed a white 18-year-old who was arrested by the police before dying from his stab wounds on the way to jail. This was also compounded by the recent news from some independent report that's just recently come out that about 250,000 people in the UK have been attacked by rape gangs, and the police aren't really doing anything about it because it would be racist. Brussels is, on the other hand, protesting for God only knows why, since it could be anything ranging because everyone is demanding socialist entitlements because something about the teachers losing their jobs, or because it's illegal to discuss about how 78% of Brussels is now composed of immigrants. Public attention on this matter would definitely hold everyone accountable. And then we have the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Iran. Ukraine isn't part of the news cycle these days, but it's ready to come back. And Iran is one of those semantic circumstances where a thing is a war according to common sense, but not really a war. It's kind of like how the Vietnam War was a congressionally authorized counteroffensive, and the Korean War was police action. We can call things military action, kinetic action, law enforcement operations, coalition-led conditional operations, pre-authorized defense stabilization initiatives, but not really a war. Iran was simply preemptive, retaliatory, de-escalation action followed by a blockade. Now, this is obviously stupid, but it was made possible because people are not paying attention to that and they're paying attention to something else. In the United States, there is some important legislation arising about whether voting should require ID. Naturally, everyone in the United States already needs ID to get a bank account, drive a car, get a job, or buy alcohol. Therefore, while it would either make sense to have voter ID or abolish ID everywhere else, there is political incentive to not talk about that. So there's a reason people should just look elsewhere. Now, I'm intentionally avoiding everything else, including the Epstein files, but suffice to say, it makes more sense for people who don't want public attention on all the stuff that I just said to talk about one guy who got wealthy from making rockets and electric cars. Now, the funny irony of Elon Musk's situation, though, is that he can't do as much with the money as you might think. If Elon wanted to buy an island lair somewhere with a barge full of money, most of his wealth is in company stock, so he would have to tell everyone before he sold it, and the market value of his stock would go down before he could sell. He would easily lose a few $100 billion on that alone, not including how he spent the money would make him lose quite a bit more before it actually got used for anything. People who make money in business are receiving that money by the individual's consent. By contrast, governments make lots of money because anyone who doesn't want to pay taxes will go to prison. So, while there are obvious monopolies and oligopolies, there's a higher chance that absolutely anyone running a company is adding value to society, while any government's addition to society may be harder to define. I'd like to also address one discussion topic that is connected to this and always comes around when someone brings up multiple news stories that are not necessarily related, and that's the idea and cultural stigma of a conspiracy theory. We all know it's well within human nature for multiple people in power to want to keep that power. And the easiest way to keep that power is to make non-public agreements, or conspire, against their mutual threats. However, back in the 1950s onward, when communism was a potential psychological operation, or PSYOP, by Russian operatives, the US operatives did an excellent PSYOP countering that by indicating to the public that someone suspecting a conspiracy and holding a theory about it was mentally unwell. Obviously, dwelling on what very powerful people can do when we have no control over it is legitimately unhealthy. Further, some conspiracy theories are remarkably entertaining works of fiction. However, if you pay attention to what a lot of those conspiracy theorists are saying, their initial facts are certainly worth observing, even when their conclusions are completely out of their mind. Something was obviously going on, for example, with JFK's assassination, but I hesitate to believe it was the reptilians conspiring with the mole men to make us submit to space alien overlords. Since these people were already looking for details, they will certainly observe correct details. It's really just a question of whether these details are connected the correct way. And therefore, I withhold my judgment on whether this collective misdirection, suppression of free speech, and non-reporting of important news is in fact part of a great reset or great replacement theory. After all, the essence of a conspiracy would be that the theory would be difficult to prove, and it's a much better thing to dwell on the truth instead. Anyway, I hope this added meaning, and I don't take your attention for granted. To reciprocate the value, go to stucky.tech/value, and please have a philosophically improved week.